Ever get the feeling that like the biggest breakthroughs, those mind-blowing ones like we see with quantum computing, they often have roots in the most unexpected places?
It's true, and that's what's so fascinating about today's deep dive.
We're tracing those roots, those threads, all the way back, and we end up with a name you might not expect at all. Stefan Banach.
Stefan Banach, a Polish mathematician, and his work. Fundamental to quantum mechanics, to computing, to how we understand the universe at its most basic level.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, his story. It's anything but a straight line from point A to point B.
Not at all. We're going to uncover all those twists and turns, those unexpected connections in his life, in his work, and we'll see how it all comes together. Because his work, while not directly, aimed at quantum mechanics, it laid the groundwork, the foundation for it to even exist.
So for our listener today who's fascinated by, well, mathematics in general, but especially how it all connects to quantum computing, we got to start with the basics.
Of course.
Who was Stefan Banach? Paint us a picture.
So, Stefan Banach, born back in 1892, he was a mathematical anomaly, you could say. His early life, it wasn't like he was some child prodigy scribbling equations in the cradle.
Right. It wasn't obvious from day one.
No, not at all. He actually began his studies in engineering. Can you imagine? He even thought at one point that there wasn't much new to discover in math. Can you believe that?
Wow. Good thing you didn't listen to that little voice.
Right.
Right. So what changed? How did he go from engineering to, well, becoming the Stefan Banach, this mathematical giant?
A chance encounter. Picture this. Krakow, 1916, a park. Hugo Steinhaus, a mathematician himself, overhears Banach and a friend discussing, get this, Lebesgue measure. This is pretty high-level math stuff.
Yeah, not exactly your everyday park conversation.
Intrigued, Steinhaus approaches them, introduces himself, and that moment, that simple, hello, it changed everything.
Okay, now that's how you start the first act of a movie about a math revolution. What happened next? Did Steinhaus uncover some hidden genius like Banach was a savant all along?
Steinhaus, he saw something special in Banach, a raw talent, an intuition. He presented him with this problem, a really complex mathematical problem he'd been wrestling with for ages. And Banach, he goes off, and in a matter of days, comes back with a solution.
Wow. That's not just being good at math.
It was a turning point, the beginning of a lifelong friendship, a collaboration that changed math. Oh, and it led him to his future wife, Lucia Braus. They met through all of this.
A love story and a mathematical revolution, all sparked by a chance conversation in a park. Makes you wonder about those seemingly insignificant moments in life,
Yeah.
The ones that could change everything. But this was around World War I, right? I can't imagine that was easy.
You're right. The war delayed their first paper together, definitely disrupted things. But even with all that chaos, this meeting with Steinhaus, it was a launch pad for Banach. Because, get this, despite having no formal university degree in mathematics.
Wait, no degree?
You heard right. But Steinhaus saw his brilliance, right? So he helps Banach secure a position, an assistant at Low Technical University in 1920. And what was he lecturing on?
I'm going to guess mathematics.
Mathematics? Can you imagine being a student in that class?
The mind boggles.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's lecturing, no degree, but clearly this man was brilliant. So how does the doctorate happen?
His talent, it was undeniable, and the world was about to find out how much he had to offer. Because for his doctorate, he submits this groundbreaking dissertation on operations on abstract sets and their application to integral equations. And that work, it was the birth of a whole new field of mathematics.
Hold on, he didn't just contribute to some existing field, he birthed the whole new one.
Functional analysis.
Just casually creating new fields of mathematics, typical Banach. But what in the world are abstract sets, though? It sounds abstract.
It's where things get really interesting. And trust me, we start to see the first glimmer of that connection to quantum mechanics. See, Banach's work, it dove headfirst into the world of infinite dimensional spaces, a concept that, well, it underpins pretty much everything we understand about how quantum mechanics works.
Infinite dimensions. All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's talk about the Lua School of Mathematics a bit.
Yeah.
They were famous for holding their brainstorming sessions in cafes, right? Not exactly the image that comes to mind when I think advanced mathematics research.
Stuffiness had no place there. Banach and Steinhaus, they led this group of brilliant minds. They called it the Luo School. And yeah, their intellectual battleground was the cafe. Coffee, conversation, pushing the boundaries of math. That was their style.
Sounds like my kind of classroom. Okay, so we've got this unconventional genius, Stefan Banach, whose work on, abstract sets gave birth to the fields of functional analysis. And he did all of this within the vibrant intellectual hub of the Luthlo School. It's already a captivating story, but I'm dying to unravel how this all connects to the world of quantum computing.
And unravel we shall. It's quite a journey, isn't it? From cafes to qubits. But really, it all comes down to those abstract sets we were talking about, and the field Banach basically invented, functional analysis.
Okay, yeah, refresh my memory. What exactly is functional analysis? I can already tell it's going to be one of those things that's like incredibly complex, but also kind of beautiful in its elegance at the same time. You know what I mean?
You're picking up on it already. It is elegant and powerful. At its core, functional analysis is about studying not just numbers, but entire spaces of functions as if they were single objects.
Okay, so instead of analyzing, say, the number 5, we'd be looking at the function x plus 5, but like as one thing, as part of a bigger structure. Am I getting that right?
Exactly. Instead of individual numbers, we're dealing with whole collections of functions. And those structures you mentioned, that's what Banach called Banach spaces. He figured out ways to talk about the distance between points in these spaces, how they converge, how they relate to each other, even when these spaces have infinite dimensions, which gets really wild.
Infinite dimensions. Yeah, that's where I have to kind of just take a leap of faith with the math and try to wrap my head around it conceptually. I mean, how can something have infinite dimensions?
It's definitely a brain bender. Imagine instead of just your usual length, width, and height, you have an endless number of ways you could move, an endless number of directions. But these aren't physical directions anymore. They represent the countless ways a function can change or be transformed. It's like,
Okay, I can sort of picture it, or at least I can appreciate how mind-blowing it is. But I'm still trying to connect the dots here. How does all of this lead us to quantum mechanics? Were physicists just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, waiting for Banach to invent the mathematical tools they needed to describe the quantum world?
not quite. It's actually even more amazing than that. Remember how I mentioned Hilbert spaces? They're crucial in quantum mechanics for describing quantum states. Well, a Hilbert space is actually a specific type of Banach space.
Oh, okay. So it's like Banach created this whole system, this mathematical toolbox, and Hilbert came along and said, hey, this wrench over here, that's exactly what I need.
Perfect analogy. Hilbert spaces are like a specialized tool within Banach's larger framework. They inherit a lot of their properties from the rules of Banach spaces.
So what makes Hilbert spaces so special? What is it about them that made them click so well with the whole world of quantum mechanics?
One of the key things about Hilbert spaces is that they have this built-in way to measure the distance and even the angle between any 2 points. In quantum mechanics, those points are quantum states.
Okay, so we're not talking about physical distance here, right? More like a way to quantify how different 2 quantum states are from each other.
Exactly. And this distance idea is crucial in quantum mechanics because it allows us to calculate probabilities. And probabilities, well, they're everything when you're dealing with the uncertainties of the quantum world.
Right, because we can't know for sure what state a quantum particle will be in, but we can talk about the probability of finding it one state versus another. So
Right.
the distance between 2 points in a Hilbert space can tell us something about how likely a quantum system is to transition between those states.
You got it. It's a powerful connection between this very abstract mathematical framework and the very real, yet often bizarre, behavior of the quantum world.
It's amazing, really, when you think about it. These abstract spaces, infinite dimensions, and it all ties back to the behavior of these tiny particles, these quantum particles, that are the building blocks of, well, everything. It's like, are we talking about math or are we talking about the universe's source code? It's kind of blurring the lines, isn't it?
It really is, and it gets even more intertwined, more profound, I think, when we bring in quantum computing. Because now it's not just about describing the quantum world, it's about actually manipulating it.
Okay, so bring on the quantum computers. We've got these qubits, these quantum bits that can be a 0 and a 1 at the same time. Right.
Exactly. They're the workhorses of quantum computation. And just like Hilbert spaces give us this framework for understanding quantum states, they also underpin how we represent and, importantly, how we manipulate these qubits.
All right, I'm following. So how does it work? I mean, I get that in classical computing, we have these logic gates, right? They take bits as input, spit out bits as output. What's the quantum equivalent?
You have quantum gates. And these gates are how we control those qubits, how we get them to dance to our tune, so to speak.
And how do Hilbert spaces fit into all of this?
Think of it this way. Each quantum gate, it's represented by a mathematical operator. But this operator, it's not just floating around in the ether. It acts within a Hilbert space. It describes how that gate transforms the state of a qubit.
Okay, so it's like a recipe for manipulating quantum information. So if we want a qubit to be in that weird superposition state, both a 0 and a 1 at the same time, there's a quantum gate for that.
Yeah.
And the way that gate is described mathematically, it's all thanks to Banach and his work.
You're getting it. The properties of these operators, the rules they have to follow, it all goes back to functional analysis. Those tools that Banach developed, they're what let us work with these operators, these quantum gates, in a way that even makes sense.
Okay, so we've got Banach in a cafe in Woe, and fast forward however many years, and his ideas are helping us build quantum computers. It's mind-blowing. But give me an example, a specific quantum gate. Is there one where this connection to Banach's work is like super obvious?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most fundamental quantum gates, I'd say, is the Hadamard gate. It's incredibly important. It's often used to create those very superposition states we've been talking about.
And the Hadamard gate, its connection to Banach spaces, how does that work?
Well, the way it operates, how it actually transforms a qubit state, how it takes it from a definite 0 or 1 and puts it into that blurry superposition state, all of that, it can be understood beautifully through the lens of Banach spaces, through the mathematics of those spaces.
So Banach, just by exploring these abstract spaces, he ended up giving us a key to unlock quantum computing. I mean, he had no idea, right? It's incredible.
It really speaks to how interconnected scientific discovery really is, you know? It's not always a straight line, it's not always intentional. Sometimes it's these seemingly unrelated fields that end up weaving together in the most unexpected ways.
Like those chance encounters, those conversations in cafes, they can spark whole new fields of study. And then generations later, we find those same ideas, those threads woven into technologies that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Exactly. And who knows what the next breakthrough will be? What connections we haven't even dreamt of yet are waiting to be discovered. It's exciting to think about.
It really is. So for our listener today, the next time you're grappling with a complex idea, maybe something that seems purely abstract, purely mathematical, remember Stefan Banach, the engineering student who revolutionized mathematics and, without even knowing it, paved the way for quantum computing. Keep asking questions, embrace the unexpected, and you never know what hidden connections, what amazing breakthroughs you might uncover.